Hi, I'm Jacob. My parents own their own business and are extremely wealthy. They own a big house and even have maids to maintain it as well. Growing up with maids was something I was used to, and recently, my parents hired a bunch of new girls. I didn't mind. There was one particular girl that was really pretty and had caught my eye the first day she'd arrived. Her name is Abby, and she's probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Why? Well, let me explain that to you. It all started on her first day when she was cleaning and got lost in the house. She'd shyly come up to me, blushing as she asked me where to go. At that point, I knew that the new maids gossiped about me, called me the handsome young master of the home. I guess that kind of went to my head and made me cocky, knowing that they all liked me. Just go down the hall and turn right. You'll get to where you need to be. I flashed her a charming smile. Thank you. Wait. That was my first mistake. I'd stopped her because I wanted to talk to her more. She was pretty, and I wanted to see her blush. What's your name? Abby. It suits you well. You're very beautiful. I would make her blush and giggle. One time, I even bought her some flowers. Even if they don't compare to your beauty, I still thought that you deserved something nice. I loved them. I knew that the other maids were a bit jealous. They all had crushes on me, and Abby especially, which made flirting with her even more fun. I don't want to sound cocky, but I'm a pretty good-looking guy. And the fact that my parents are wealthy also helps. They like the looks and the money. The first time I noticed that Abby was perhaps a bit more serious about me than I thought was when I gave another maid some flowers. Even if they don't compare to your beauty, I still thought that you deserved something nice, I said to her. What I didn't know was that after I had walked away, Abby had stormed up to the girl and grabbed the flowers from her. She had thrown them on the ground and stomped all over them, threatening the girl left and right about what she would do if she spoke to me again. The next day, the girl quit. Abby had made her work such a living nightmare that she couldn't continue her work in the house. I didn't think anything of it, and looking back, I probably should have seen some of the red flags and stopped there. But I didn't. I continued to flirt with Abby and shower her with compliments and the occasional gift. But I never let it get further than that. I never took her on dates and never said that we were anything more than people who flirted with one another. She was nice to look at and fun to talk to, but I wasn't looking for anything serious. I would flirt with the other maids as well. But soon, they all began to quit, one after another. That was when I noticed that something was up. I caught the end of a confrontation between Abby and one girl. Abby was towering over her, yelling at her about staying away from her man. He's mine! Can't you see that he likes me? She held out her wrist to show off a bracelet that I'd given her just the day before. When the maid had run away crying, I confronted Abby about it. You can't just yell at the other maids, I scolded. But she was flirting with you, Abby defended. I didn't like that. I was flirting with her, I pointed out. Abby looked shocked at the declaration. Her face had gotten red, and it wasn't from blushing this time. What do you mean that you were flirting with her? I thought that we were together. We're not. We never were. I was just flirting with you, Abby. I never said that we were anything, and I didn't think that you took it that seriously. I'm not looking for a relationship right now. Oh. Suddenly, there was a smile on her face, and she was shrugging off my statement. Of course. How silly of me to think like that. You're still in school and working right now. But I know that you're just waiting for the right time to ask me out. She had walked away from me before I could tell her that me and her was never going to happen. And then, that fateful day happened. I'd been ignoring all the red flags for weeks, but it was on that day that it all came back to bite me. I was wondering with my father in his study when Abby knocked on the door, declaring that she had an afternoon snack for us hard-working men. My father was visibly confused. I didn't ask for any snacks. I know. I just thought you might want to take a break, so I whipped something up for you in the kitchens. There was a large smile on her lips, and even if I had been flirting with Abby for the past few weeks, There had just been something there that sent shivers down my spine.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you, Abby.
Just getting some practice in, she giggled.
I'm sure that you'll make an excellent wife someday.
Abby was ecstatic at those words, her eyes lighting up. Oh, I can't wait to join the family! It was then that the room went silent, both my father and I looking at her as if she'd grown a pair of horns on her head.
What do you mean?
My father asked. He looked nervous for a second. Well, you said that I would be a great addition to the family, and I couldn't agree more. I think that Jacob and I would be great together. Our kids would be so cute. Don't you think?
I meant that as a joke, Abby.
My father pointed out.
I'm sorry if you thought that I was being serious, but I am not responsible for setting up my son's marriage plans.
It was with horror that I found out Abby had talked to my father about the two of us. She had thought that we were so serious that she had started talking about my marriage with my father? I was horrified. I felt like I was going to be sick in those moments. And Abby had looked furious at my father's words. I won't ever forget that look. It had sent bone-chilling curls through my stomach. But you promised that we would get married!
I did no such thing. I think that it's best that you leave now. Go and cool off. There's obviously been a miscommunication here. But you and my son will not be getting married.
My father deflected, trying to calm the situation. But Abby stormed out of the room, certainly not calming down, slamming the door behind her, and we thought that was the end of it. I was a fool for thinking that. That night, I woke up when I felt something on the bed beside me. I opened my eyes, and through the darkness I could see something white. Ah! I don't think I'd ever moved so fast in my life. I turned on all the lights, and the first thing I saw was Abby in a large white dress, a veil on her head. She was smiling at me, laying on the bed beside where I had been sleeping. What are you doing? I demanded to know. Isn't it obvious? We're getting married. Don't I look pretty? You're delusional. I know those were the wrong words the moment I spoke them. Abby was clearly angry that I wasn't being nice to her, or flirting with her. But I was too scared to say anything but the truth. I didn't want to have anything to do with whatever was going on inside her head. It was obvious that she had taken my flirting seriously. You and I are meant to be together, Jacob. Can't you feel it? We're soulmates, written in the stars. No, we're not, I blurted out. We're not soulmates. We're not even dating. You're laying in my bed in a wedding dress. Don't you think that's a little messed up? Not when it's our wedding night, silly. She held out her hand, and sitting on her ring finger had been the biggest, tackiest diamond ring that I'd ever seen. Don't you remember giving this to me? Oh, you were so romantic. The way you got down on one knee and begged me to marry you. That never happened, and that never will. You're crazy. I'm not crazy. She got off of the bed and walked towards me. She had then grabbed something and shoved them in my face. Don't you remember these? I know that you do. Don't lie to me. In her hands had been the flowers that I'd gotten her weeks ago. They'd been dead and withered. Abby, you're obviously going through something right now. But I'm not marrying you. And I never will. Don't be silly. Of course you're marrying me. It's our wedding night. Or did you forget that, too? There was a deranged look in her eye, one that had me backing up slowly. But she kept walking forward, trying to get close to me. It was the moment that she attempted to kiss me that I screamed, calling for help. I pushed Abby away from me and ran out of the room where my father had woken up and come out of his room.
What is going on?
He demanded. But he didn't have to ask any more questions after he laid eyes on Abby. His mouth opened in shock, but he had quickly composed himself. Father-in-law, Abby had the nerve to say.
You're fired.
I couldn't help but feel relieved at those words, and had nodded eagerly along with that decision.
Effective immediately. Don't bother getting your things. I'll have someone collect them for you and send them to your residence. Leave, now, before I have security escort you out, or I call the police.
Abby hadn't gone without a fight, and we'd had to call the cops when our night security couldn't drag her out of the house. She was screaming and crying, begging me to come to my senses as if I was the one being delusional. She was professing her love for me, reaching out for me even as the cops dragged her out of the house. Which leads me to now. Some people have told me that it was my fault for flirting with her in the first place. But I made myself clear that I wasn't interested in dating. And Abby still won't leave me alone. She'll send me gifts and hang around my parents' home until the security or police remove her. She screams at the maids that come and go from her home. And the one time I had a girlfriend, she threatened her until she'd broken up with me. Abby's ruining my life, and I guess I just need some validation that she's in the wrong here. But also some advice. I don't know how to deal with her. How to tell her that it will never happen. What do you think I should do?